Welcome everyone to the latest edition of the Inside Track podcast. We've got a fabulous guest with us this morning, Jo Walker from Xplor. How are you?
Hi, I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And as always, my trusty sidekick, Dr. G, Glenda Rivoallan. How are you?
Really good. I'm excited for this one, Ryan. I've been asking Jo to come on our podcast for a while now, so this is going to be great.
Oh, absolutely. And I think with the explosion of Xplor and all the great stuff that they're doing, I think it's probably good timing that we get Jo on and talk about that. So probably the best place to start though, Jo, because all of our guests, I mean, some people may know you, some won't, is just to really give a bit of a background, who you are, where you've come from and how you've ended up at Xplor.
Yeah, sure. So I graduated in 2022 with business and marketing, and I started my career at BP Oil, actually as a marketing assistant. I found it a bit dry as an industry, and I've always had a real passion for fitness, running, hockey, athletics, and a bit of a gym bunny as well. Back in the day, not so much now, so it was when I had an opportunity to actually work for one of our competitors, actually, within the sector. I took the opportunity and never looked back. And I've just fallen in love with working within this industry. There's nothing like it. I'm so passionate about it, and I can truly say I'm really, really happy with what I do and in my role. So yeah, and I hope that comes across as well.
Oh, it always does. Jo, what I love there when you said about our sector, I always try and explain to people, because I work in other sectors as well with the work I do. But I love the fitness industry so much. And then when you look at all of the events that we go to and how much fun we have, why do you love it so much? What do you think it is about our industry?
I just think there's the shared passion that we all have, the drive that we all have to drive the sector forward, and championing each other's successes. And I've never worked in an industry like it, and like you say as well, I mean, the events are just fabulous fun, aren't they? They really are. And it feels like a family. I know that sounds a bit like cheesy and cliche, but you go to the events and you see the same people, and you build those fantastic relationships, and it's just a really great place to be.
I think it's nice. Obviously, you're in marketing in what you do, and I think the great thing about fitness is there's so much to it. It's not a one-dimensional industry. So when you come into it, and whether it's a CRM system like you guys have, or whether it's a gym, or whether it's some other supplier, there's so much you can do with it. So from the job that you do, you must sit there just going, "Oh, this is just a dream. I can do whatever I want."
Yes,
and have some fun.
Absolutely. And it's nice to actually work within both the private sector and the public sector, because although it's the same industry, they're quite different in terms of the segments. So it's nice to see sort of both sides operationally and in terms of marketing as well.
Jo, a big question I've got for the people that are out there, because even as someone that's active in the industry, it felt for me like the last 2 years, Xplor appeared and just exploded and just done an incredible branding and marketing exercise, and way beyond that, which we'll talk about. But for anybody that doesn't know, they won't realise just how big the group is, and actually it's been doing it for so long. It's just that the Xplor brand has exploded in the UK. So would you mind telling people, who you're part of, and the scale of the group itself, and then what the idea is behind the Xplor brand in the UK? Would you just give a whistle stop?
Of course. So Xplor Technologies is a global organization spanning 42 countries at the moment, and growing. So they operate within a number of different verticals. So health and fitness being one of them, or fitness and wellbeing, should I say. And there's sort of home services and childcare and personal services, and there is another one as well. But yeah, so they operate within a number of different verticals. And obviously, I manage the fitness and wellbeing vertical in the UK. Previously Europe, but just UK now. So yes, I think the global aspiration for Xplor Gym particularly is to sort of, grow and scale across new territories and be the global number one, which is well within our reach because we have a fantastic product and an amazing team. So that's kind of where we are. And I think the beauty with working with Xplor is we're a large global organization, but so we have all the benefits of that, but we also have that sort of small business local feel when it comes to supporting operators and helping them to achieve success within this market, particularly. So yes, we'd like to sort of say, global reach but local support, and obviously with a big global organization comes continuous investment in R&D and innovation, and so we're never going to be sort of scrambling around trying to come up with some capital to launch a new feature that we know the market desperately needs. We've got the funds and the resources to be able to really drive it forward, which I think is pretty unique.
Yeah, very, very fortunate.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess that, like you say, because you work in the leisure trust, you work in the independents, you work with obviously you work with big franchise chains as well. Obviously, you've got now with the recent purchase, you've got pretty much the whole of Japan sewn up.
Yes.
So I guess having that great branding across the whole sector gives you the ability to sort of flex your muscles or flex the business to suit and take one good thing to another, and you can cross reference, can't you, in terms of
absolutely. Yeah, sharing best practice, making sure that we're not operating in silo when it comes to innovation, and we're making sure that we've got Mariana Tech obviously in the US, and that a phenomenal product. We're taking sort of best in class and making sure that we're benefiting that from those particular sort of developments and innovations across the entire global portfolio. So we are very fortunate in that respect.
Jo, you have been so instrumental in the Xplor Gym brand exploding in the UK over the last couple of years. But what I've been really impressed by is, for me, it's went so beyond marketing. It feels like what you've done is portray the values of the company rather than just a marketing exercise. And I think that what I've seen that you've done so well is you've went way beyond your payment gateway as the solution to offering so much more of a value add to operators. I just wondered, was that really deliberate, that you guys understand the power of going beyond simple marketing? Because obviously it takes time, money and investment. And I just wondered what your thought process is on that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think that's what happens when you bring people that are so passionate about the industry together. So, our overarching sort of objective is to help drive the sector forward. And we're in a unique position to be able to support with that. Technology aside, we have an amazing product that can really support with member acquisition and the management of an operation. But actually, where the real value comes in is that partnership and that education piece. And that's something that we're really, we've been really making a big splash about with the education. And I think that that one of our sort of values at Xplor is build for people. And make life simple, and and we want to go above and beyond, and we want to be seen as a partner to our customers, and not just our customers, but to our prospects, to the sector in general. We want to deliver that value. We want to make sure that we are educating and providing them with the right tools for success, and giving them sort of competitive advantage, and making sure that they're optimizing their operations in the best way that they can. COVID was a horrible time. I know that there's still an emphasis on trying to get membership numbers back to pre-COVID levels, and where we can really support with that is, technology aside, we can really support in giving operators tactical takeaways that they can implement within their facilities, like straight away, and start to see that improvement in their bottom line. and help them to whether that's an automated referral program that they can implement pretty quickly. And we know that referrals is a fantastic way of driving member acquisition. So it's just sort of making sure that the research that we do, it's all designed to deliver value and help the sector move forward and succeed and and really bounce back.
It's interesting actually, Joe, because you find with a lot of marketing, if you add value, you get far better response rates than if you just post in, this is us, this is what we say. You have to have that, but I think adding that value and providing that keeps you in the mindset of people.
It comes down to thought leadership as well, and being credible and being human as a brand. There's a lot of brands that lack that human element, and that's why we try to make sure that we're at all the events and we're providing a face to the brand. And it's so incredibly important, especially in this sector where it's it's predominantly built on relationships. People do business with people that they like, and it's this sector is probably the most relationship centric sector that I've ever worked in. Going back to what we were saying earlier, it's really important to have that human element and that empathy and that real sort of passion and caring about success and supporting. And that's why we work with a number of different partners like UK Active and independent gyms. It's to be able to use those partners as sort of distribution channels to support the sector and sort of expand our reach in that way.
And it's clever how, sorry Glenda, it's clever how you've actually brought in people like Dave Olsen, stuff like that obviously come from those organisations, which helps you leap those links. Now, I'm not saying that's why he was brought in. As well. But it does help if you're bringing industry experts like that in from the various fields. You look at Jake; he's obviously had his own clubs and stuff like that. So people in with the background that almost you're sort of going, well, if someone has that, we can relate because we've got that.
Well, exactly, and absolutely. And I think it's people being surrounded by people that really understand the challenges that operators face on a daily basis. They've walked in their shoes. All of our BDMs come from an operational background, and we've done that deliberately because we want to make sure that it's all very well and good going to market with a product, but unless you have an intrinsic understanding of those challenges and you've walked in those shoes and you genuinely sort of get it and can relate to operators because you've been there, you've done that, what's going to help them, then it's sort of I think that's incredibly important.
I think that is very, I just think it's a really smart approach, and I think that's why the credibility of the brand has just flew from the moment it exploded. And I know that you've been there a while, but just in the last 2 years it really has came to the fore. But I was just thinking, you're really in a unique position as well, because you have access to a lot of data, and data is so powerful. And maybe in our industry we weren't brilliant in the past at sharing what the insights are from that. And I think what's really been great as well is that you're starting to share anonymized data on what that's telling us about where the sector is at. And I think we need a lot more of that.
Absolutely.
You're in a unique position there, aren't you, where you've got access to such big volumes of data that we're going to get the credibility from the actual data itself because of the pure scale.
Absolutely. And I think one of the first things I wanted to do when I joined Xplor was leverage the huge amount of data that we have within the business to be able to provide those tangible insights to operators. And that's where the attrition report has come from. And, being able to provide that level of insight that's actually going to really help inform decisions and help inform, particularly when it comes to attrition, because we know it's a huge challenge. So by providing operators with, the most common attrition reasons, and then not just to give them the data, but actually to work with industry experts to provide re-engagement strategies, intervention tactics, and it's that attrition report is actually we've I think it's around 250 downloads of the report that we've had so far, which is phenomenal. And you know, I urge everyone to, if they're listening, to go and download that report.
Absolutely, it's a good. It also sparks debate, Joe, and I think that's because I love posting
I love a debate.
So do I. And so things like that. And but what it does is it gives you the data, and it allows then everybody else to pitch in and start going, okay, what about this? What about this? One, it gives you guys more feedback and insight to go, okay, why don't we look at that? That gives you something else, and you haven't had to go and buy that information as such, or that feedback. But also gets the whole industry. So if the likes of me, Glenda, and everyone else starts talking about it, obviously that spreads. More people see it and go, we need to look at that. And I think that's what it's all about. But more than anything else, it opens up that debate and goes, okay, that's some information we can look at. Why should we look at that? How can it impact our business? And I think that's take it back as a gym owner to look at and go, okay, how does mine look in comparison to that, and so on.
Yeah,
not to put you too much on the spot, Joe, but I think for the benefits of the people that will listen in on this, what was the big takeaways that you personally found that you got from that? Because it would have been a big insight for you too, right? You know, until we actually analyse and correlate the data, we're sometimes guessing. I just wondered what really showed up for you about, you know, attrition generally that you thought was fascinating from the report.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, a couple of things, but one of the biggest things was that around 50% of leavers cancel silently. So they don't tell the operator, you know, why they're leaving, you know, why they were dissatisfied, and they just cancel their payment at the bank, or they stop their recurring card. So that to me was incredibly surprising, or going back to Ryan, actually, in one of the comments you said not surprising, but I think that really highlights that actually it's really important for operators to build that culture of trust, so they can understand, you know, where they can improve in terms of, you know, the satisfaction levels. You know, it's without that feedback is critical to the success of any business, and without that feedback, you know, they're not going to be able to continuously improve and reduce their attrition, you know, over time. And we know that obviously, you know, acquiring a new member is I think it's something like 3 times more expensive than actually retaining one. So it's really important that operators can get this right. And, you know, working with Joanna from Active Insight, you know, they provide a fantastic solution called Recovery Focus, and you know, that's something that she goes into a little bit in the report. But it's about that re-engagement strategy, and it's about making sure that your member feels comfortable enough to actually come and say, you know, I'm not particularly happy about this, you know, or, you know, the toilets, the changing rooms were dirty, and, or, you know, I'm struggling financially this month. Can I go on free? So that whole kind of channel of communication is lacking. And I think that that was the biggest takeaway for me. The other one was around inductions, actually, that we know that inductions have a positive impact on retention. I think it's something like 4 months additional in terms of length of stay if they've had an induction. But we also noticed that I think it was like 75% of leavers had an induction. So if you flip it, you can see that actually inductions, although they do have a positive impact on length of stay, 75% of leavers had an induction. So it's
that follow-on then, isn't it, from the induction? What happens
exactly
after that?
Yes. So it really sparked a conversation around, okay, so do we need to like look at inductions? Do we need to look at rebranding them? Do we need to look at, you know, repositioning them? So
and quality cues there as well, isn't it? Just because you have one doesn't mean that the quality was there. And I also think Ryan's point is really important. Do you have to then go back in numerous times as refresher inductions because people try new pieces of equipment, their program changes? Really fascinating. But, you know, just you saying about when people actually leave, they don't tell the club. It's amazing, even in other sectors where I very much notice that sometimes if they've got a flux of people leaving that business, they're not doing exit interviews, right?
Yeah.
And they're so powerful, because I think what you just said there is so critically important. All feedback is good feedback, even if it's not what you want to hear. And I think that, you know, getting back to that, do you remember, Ryan, in the really old days, that was the last piece of the member journey, was an exit interview, because you might even get them back. Or if they are still determined to leave, that you leave having got that really important feedback. And I think that's a great message, Jo, for people out there. You know, are you actually investing time in these exit interviews, because they're so powerful?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that sometimes those conversations can be quite awkward to have with members. So it's providing them with the tools, even digitally, to sort of, you know, provide that feedback. So you know, they don't have to do it face to face. You know, it can be done. It can be done digitally. You know, even if it's just an email that's sent through with a very, very short survey. But yeah, getting that feedback is critical to being able to improve. And you know, it could be something as simple as, you know, their marketing is creating an expectation that's up here, but actually the reality is it's here, so it's causing that dissatisfaction. But you know, you won't know unless you get that feedback. So,
Jo, I just wondered, and have you guys done? I'm sure you have, and I think I've seen it. What about in the reverse of that? What would you say are the top tips that are helping retain members right now? What have you seen in your data?
Engagement, continuous engagement. So going back to inductions, not a one-off touch point. It has to be an ongoing touch points, a series. So, you know, whether you're using technology in order to automate nurture cadences, you know, and help to move that member through that journey. You know, I think personal trainers as well having a big impact on member retention, whether that's you know, just a one-off session or an ongoing, you know, series of sessions. I think that the research shows that, actually I was talking to Aaron from your PT, Aaron McCulloch. He gave some really interesting facts around the impacts of personal training on member retention. And I think it was something like 7 months, 5 to 7 months. Personal trainers can increase member length of stay by 5 to 7 months, and that's really compelling. So, and I think, and actually, I think personal trainers or trainers, just period, club staff, you know, they do have a huge impact on the member experience. You know, and I think that making sure that your team are fully aligned with, you know, your facilities values, your facilities objectives, like, you know, mission is critical, and making them feel that you know, they are an intrinsic part of the business rather than just an employee. I think
the thing there, you make a very valid point, that intrinsic part of the business, and that's where a lot of the clubs that I deal with, they'll have freelance PTs and maybe a couple of internals, but it's trying to make that freelance PT feel part of the business and not just someone who's paying a rent. Because you see the clubs that do it really well, where almost they're a member of staff, they just pay differently. That's the feel that you want, because those guys have such a massive impact. One, because they're driven differently to an internal PT. They're more likely to obviously interact with the staff because they need the money. You know what I mean? They're driven differently. They need to raise money. So, but if you just allow them to be almost a separate business that sits outside of yours but just uses your club, you don't get that same benefit. Those clubs that do really well are those that bring those freelancers in, almost treat them like staff. They like I say, they just earn their money.
Ryan, it's funny you say that, because in James's talk at IG last week, James Lowry from your PT, that is a big insight that they've found from interviewing PTs, is that they actually want to feel part of the team.
Interestingly, I think I'm going back to technology again, but you know, I have to. But you know, I think technology can play a really significant role in that, because if you look at Xplor Gym, for instance, we have integrated PT management and coaching tools, which is pretty unique in the UK for a CRM product. And I think being able to offer freelance PTs, or you know, whatever PT model you adopt in your facility, I think being able to offer those digital tools to your PTs to allow them to grow their business and allow them to communicate at scale and actually, you know, feel really involved and integrated within the business, I think is really key. And you know, our Xplor Gym product is quite unique in that it does provide that integrated, you know, PT management.
Well, you want for the client, you want it almost to feel like one business.
Exactly. It needs to be cohesive. Yes, and seamless.
Coming in and going, I'm a part of that business from a PT, I'm a part of that business from a classic, I'm part of that for the gym. It should feel to them as it's all one, and obviously a solution like that allows that to happen, doesn't it? Because they remember on the system, that's their app, but also their PTs in there, and everything just flows through that one thing, so they see it all as one business.
That's it. It's a seamless member experience. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm now starting to join dots of Joe's insights, which I've loved, and I'm coming up with something that's a bit controversial, but you know, we love that.
Love a bit of controversy, Glenda.
Well, as a previous club owner myself, I've always had these conversations on the podcast and it is controversial. I do think our industry's pricing model is too cheap, right?
Yeah, totally agree.
Now, we have a big problem there because the horse is bolted, because the whole industry, in my opinion, is too cheap.
Yeah.
But what I think is really fascinating is you mentioned as a marketeer about over promising and then not delivering.
Yeah.
But I think that what we should be maybe doing more of is making it really, really clear what a membership actually gives you. Because be honest, even at clubs that charge at $32.99 a month, they're promising the absolute earth that we can get you, you know, that silver bullet of, you know, lifelong longevity and happiness and health, right? But actually, maybe in the new way of working, we should be much clearer on what the actual membership delivers on. And then you bring in those services that they do have to pay for, like PT, because we know it delivers results. Actually, I think we need to be more transparent and truthful about that.
Yeah.
That your membership, now, at the risk of being really controversial, there is an argument. The membership is getting you in the building and enjoying the facilities, but from there, you've got to buy other services. And I think our industry would do much better if they could really solve that challenge, because we definitely have a challenge with pricing.
Yeah. They say, I think Dave Alstead mentioned this in one of his sessions previously, that the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door. It's getting people actually in the first place. But I agree with you. I also think we need to do a better job as an industry with the value proposition and communicating that to members. And I think we are starting to see that shift in sort of, you know, consumer, you know, perception and their sort of needs and how they're viewing the gym. Although, you know, member penetration is still, what is it, 15.1%? Is it? So yeah, you know, we aren't moving forward really with that, and I think that does come down to, you know, when you sort of take a step back and you look at the bigger picture, I think we need to do a better job as in our society of communicating the value of being fit and healthy. We have so many distractions, you know, with, you know, you go to a supermarket and you're just the fast food. And if you go to other countries in Europe, I think it was, I was speaking to Dave Gerrish at Elevate. Was it Dave? No, it's actually Hugh. I was speaking to Hugh at Elevate, and he mentioned that I think it's Norway that has really high member penetration rate. And it's because of the government and the kind of the society that the messages that they have sort of conveyed and built within their society is that, you know, a lot of, I can't remember what the penetration rate is, but it really shocked me. It was really high.
Peter Webb was telling us this as well, but because it's quite interesting. He used to work for Star Trek, I think it was.
Right.
And when they were selling the kit out there, he said, but the strange thing is with Norway, huge in terms of penetration, massive, can't sell PT for the people don't want it. So really where you've got this high growth or high penetration in terms of people exercising, being members of clubs and whatever, everybody's so well educated for exercise that they won't buy into PT, and they couldn't. It didn't matter what they did. The percentage of uptake for PT in those clubs was lower than everywhere else in Europe, and they're just like, well, is it because they're so well educated on their health and well-being that they literally just, we can do it ourselves? But I tell you what, that does bring a really interesting point, actually, because obviously, because you work cross-sector, there's a big change now. Obviously, private sector is still saying fitness and wellness. Obviously, the public sector are now moving away from fitness into this well-being, wellness space.
Yeah.
Has that changed how you guys are having to work with those? Because I can imagine, because their model's changing, you guys are looking at your system and going, actually, do we need to adapt in terms of what we're doing as a system and a marketing and to help those guys with their new program of because obviously they've changed completely now in terms of where they want to go.
Yes.
Has it impacted you guys in terms of your systems, or is it pretty much the same?
Not so much in terms of the systems, because actually, I mean, in terms of the system, operationally, we support the facility in terms of streamlining and making sure that, I think, member acquisition and retention and general sort of, payments management are sort of the key areas that our solution sort of supports with. But where we have noticed a shift and where we have tried to really lead into by working with, the likes of Dr. Glenda, is through education again. So, Glenda and I did some collaborations earlier on this year around, incorporating, well-being within the sector and within the facility. And, they were incredibly well received, those sessions. I think we've got the most amount of webinar registrations I think I've ever seen, to be honest, for a webinar. So it's really, it just highlights the need and the demand, and it highlights that shift in, in focus with operations. And I would like to see it become more than a buzzword. I feel like, we are making good progress, but I still think there's a reluctance to adopt or change or adapt.
They don't tend to talk about how they're going to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's
it's not just as simple as changing the name on your door from fitness to wellness.
Yeah.
It's actually, and it goes all the way back, Joe, to something that I think all of the people who listen to this, if it's the one takeaway that I'm going to take away and really think about that you've raised today, is that value proposition, right? Yeah. It's really easy to also say that we're in well-being, and I know very few clubs actually could justify that because they don't even measure it.
Yeah.
So that's really fascinating, because well-being, as we know, is so much more than just someone's fitness level. Yeah. So, and then that's what we tend to start and stop with in terms of physical measurement, and then we don't do much more. I know there are pockets of good practice, but we really need to drive data that proves that we actually do that. And something I want to make a point on, because it goes back to my other point about pricing models are a challenge. I'm also someone that gets really passionate about health inequality, though. So even at $32.99 a month, that's too expensive for a lot of our population. Yeah. And the people that often need us the most are the people that never get access to help and support. So it takes me back, Ryan, to the guest that we have that talked about the club with no walls. It's like we shouldn't really think of our club as it starts with the membership, because our pricing can be so much more flexible now. We need to think about driving just general activity in the community. And whether that's that we've got walking groups, running groups, we have, seasonal get-ups where you do some physical activity and get people together. I think that clubs can do a huge amount more in the community that gives us that access to entry before they become a club member, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's really important, that access to it, that entry point. It doesn't have to be, when they come into the facility. And I think if we can diversify the memberships and actually look at even, online memberships, an online membership for £5 a month or something, give them access to some on-demand classes and, the app. And, eventually when their situation changes and they become more, for whatever reason, for whatever barrier is stopping them from coming into the club, whether it's financial, whether it's, they feel self-conscious, time. Once their situation changes, they grow in confidence, they start to, they're financially a little bit more stable, better off, then they will come to your facility. They will, they will come in. So I think, and they will join as a fully fledged member. So I think it's diversifying memberships and looking at, and I hate this word as well, but the hybrid thing as well. It's just being able to offer, more opportunity for people to get active, and keeping them engaged with your facility, whether that's in the facility or outside of the facility. I think we could, that there are a lot of opportunities that operators can tap into.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am definitely already reflecting from a lot of what you've said, and that's the purpose of this. And I really value that about you, Jo, that you get me thinking, because, I really want to go back to that value proposition. I give advice to club owners and say, if you are fitness only and that is what you are on the tin, own it.
Yeah.
If you're feeling pressured right now to become a wellbeing organisation, but you know that you can't deliver on it, just don't do it. It's really important to understand your proposition and then stand by it. And I think that's really important. And I think that says a lot about brands who know what they are.
Yeah.
And I think that you demonstrate that beautifully. And I've got a really crazy question to ask you. I've loved the Xplor marketing gifts this year.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I did think it was a cool one, the Sweetie stand, because as you know, yes, it's not the healthiest, but everybody loved it at Elevate.
Yeah.
No, was it Evolve, was it? No, it was Elevate.
It was Elevate, yes.
But the best one for me was the scraper, the car scraper, the windscreen scraper.
Yeah.
Because every single time over the winter someone's going to use that, you are being reminded every day. And I thought, what a great product. So how are you going to do that next year?
Well, I can't take the credit for that. That was my amazing marketing specialist, Jade.
She's brilliant.
She's incredible. She comes up with all of these incredibly creative ideas for, she's fully in charge of the swag. So it's all credit to her. But yeah, she's, I will ask her. I know she's got lots of interesting things up her sleeve.
Well, I don't know how you're going to better that one.
I know. It was a stroke of genius, really, wasn't it? I mean, timing-wise, it couldn't have been better.
Honestly, it's so weird, Ryan, because the day after IG, there was so much frost.
I know,
and all the cars were completely white, and everybody's got their Xplor sticker out. It was absolute, master stroke. I don't know how you can better that. Ryan, have you got a final question for Jo?
Yeah, just a couple actually. Firstly, just with your marketing head on, Jo, because obviously that's your expertise. What sort of three key areas would you advise gyms now to, obviously with January coming up and so on? Is there sort of three things that you sort of go, well, okay, if you were going to make an impact on your marketing, this is where we'd recommend you look at?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me when it comes to gyms is implementing a referral program. If it's automated, all the better, because then it's running along in the background. Your members are being rewarded for every referral that they make. It really is, I think, the most effective marketing channel for gyms. I've got the stats somewhere. I've actually got a whole blog on it on our xplorgym.co.uk website, so you can go and have a look at that. But yeah, it really is word of mouth. Use your advocates to promote your facility. Make sure that you've got advocates. If you don't know who your advocates are, make sure you implement an NPS so you can understand who they are.
Well, the key is create community, isn't it? You create community, you have lovers, and they'll obviously sing about your thing. The clubs that don't create that community, the referrals trickle in. It hasn't got the same impact. You've really got to work. Referrals don't just happen. You have to breed them. You have to, you know what I mean? You have to generate that interest and that love for your brand.
And I do think that's a quick win for companies that are moving towards well-being, having these well-being ambassadors, right?
Yeah.
People who have lived, breathed the story, got huge impact, are definitely the people that you want to be describing how that unfolded.
Yeah.
And they then just triple the effect, don't they? It's like Absolutely. 10x the impact.
Yeah, completely, exactly. And you know, and I think going back to being able to identify who your advocates are, you know, technology can really help you with that. So it's making sure that you've got a mechanism for feedback, so you can identify who those are, and then you can use, you know, your CRM to send, you know, targeted marketing campaigns to those advocates, and you know, you could even sort of, you know, give them, particularly at this time of year, I think it's a great way of being able to say, you know, bring somebody in if they sign up by the end of the year, then, you know, it's just that year out close, just you know, drive those numbers. I think the other thing for gyms would be email marketing. I think we can't underestimate the power of email. I think it's, you know, or push notifications if you've got, you know, prospect data. But I think email marketing is quite underrated, and I think for me, particularly in business to business, it is probably the best performing marketing channel.
People got into a habit of just social, didn't they? It was just like Facebook ads,
yes,
Instagram ads,
yeah,
and they forgot about all the great stuff. Even
yeah.
SMS still has an impact. So you, with
Yeah.
your CRM system being able to SMS people and push notification email,
Yeah,
it's still, I still am like you, massive advocate of it. But what people got into this habit was, it was Facebook and everything, got to do ads. You're like going, you've got a
yeah.
massive database there.
I know.
Why aren't we contacting them?
I think it's because a lot of maybe some operators perhaps don't know how to optimize their email marketing, and I think you know, if they can segment their audiences, they can and you know, and put out some really targeted campaigns, their success rates is going to be a lot higher. You know, so make sure that you're getting as much information from your prospects as you can, and you're recording all of that data in your prospect management.
But it's easy with a system like yours as well, Joe, where you
Yeah.
can tag it. So
You
if you're
can.
tagging all these people, you can search the tags and then send out via the tags. It's an easy system to use, and it's a great way to sort of go, okay, PT to that person, group training to that, but it's so easy.
I mean, that level of segmentation, being able to, like you say, to tag different prospects and group them in a number of different ways, allows you to be really, really targeted with your campaigns and drive that prospect through to conversion in a much more seamless way, and in a much more effective way as well. And also they're getting content and messaging that is relevant to them. There's nothing worse than getting an email that's, you know, why have you sent me this? Like, this is not my goal. I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't want to get, like, you know, it's understanding, you know, what that prospect you know, is looking for from your facility.
But the great thing is as well, it's a good point, because it's like we do a lot of ebooks for my clients. So we create ebooks, whether they be weight loss ones, healthy eating ones. We've got a Christmas healthy habit for festive period one out. And if you're sending it to the wrong person, so if I'm sending a weight loss one to a person who's it have the opposite effect and turn them off.
Totally.
So if you can then segment those people and go, okay, I know what their goal is, this is what they do. And that comes back to what we were talking about earlier with the induction. If everyone's gone through an induction, you know what their goals are, that's in the system, they're tagged in the system. And then the information that goes out is so easy to do. Literally, it's a 5-minute job. Bang, they get this great ebook. Click on that, and suddenly they go into a nice workflow that follows them through into a different link. All technology which your systems have, and you know what I mean, which just make it easy. And everyone thinks, oh, it's difficult. It's just like the setup takes a little bit. But once that's set up, it just rolls, and it's such a simple thing to do, and it makes you look credible, makes you look good. You know what I mean? People get this information, and the great thing is, like we were talking about earlier, it's having those client journeys that have points of contact, so that you don't get to the end and they've not had contact for 9 months. You've got these emails going out. Keep nurturing these clients, and then obviously when you see them in the club, it helps as well. But it just keeps that client engaged with your product without actually having to do a great deal.
Exactly, and it really takes the heavy lifting out of it, you know, because marketing is incredibly time consuming for an operator that is trying to wear a million different hats. So if you've got something running in the background that's actually really effective and targeted, and you know that your members are engaging with those communications, because they are highly relevant to them. You know, that's taking a shed load of work away from you, and it's improving your retention and your engagement, and actually it's also providing additional sort of you know, revenue opportunities through sort of targeted upsell campaigns. So you know, if you understand your member and you understand their wants and needs, it's much easier to sell to someone that you yeah. So
absolutely. One final question then, which we ask all of our guests, Jo, before we leave you, is what motivates you to do what you do? It's quite an interesting. We get some interesting things from family to all sorts of stuff. So we always like to ask it at the end in terms of what motivates you to do your job and get up in the morning.
I think it's probably wanting to be the best version of me that I can be. I want to feel like I'm constantly progressing and I'm constantly contributing and adding value to whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever organization I work for, and obviously working in this sector is phenomenal, and I feel incredibly lucky to be able to do this every day.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your time today. It's obviously great to have you on. We obviously see you around the circuit all the time. So
yeah.
It's really nice to get you on and talk. If people want to get in touch with you, Jo, we'll obviously put your LinkedIn details at the end here.
Yes.
If people want to get more understanding of Xplor, we'll obviously put the Xplor website as well. So people just need to click on that and go through and find out what you guys do. And if they want to have a chat, obviously speak to one of your team. But yes, I really appreciate your time this morning, and we will we'll see you again soon, I'm sure.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on. I've enjoyed it.
Oh, we've enjoyed having you, Jo. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.